Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Today's episode, I have thoughts, self-publishing a Writing for Screens book. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the Chief Operating Everything at Writing for Screens, a channel here on YouTube that I have created in order to take the skills and tools and insights that I gained in a 25-year career of writing for TV and movies. On my way out of the business, I am trying to leave behind some of the things that I had to figure out for myself in some form that I hope will help you as you try and figure out things for yourself. I do not have a system, I do not have rules, I do not have a surefire key to success. I just have the stuff that I figured out for you to try, because that's what every artist has to do. Work it out for themselves, figure out what works for them, what they want to do, what they can do, figure it out for yourself and make your own artistic path, because every single artist's path is different. You live in different places, you live in different times. We all are doing the best we can with what we've got. And all I'm trying to do is tell you some stuff that might be useful here on the channel. This is a little screen grab of the current channel main page. And if you see down towards the bottom, there's some playlists. Here's some close-ups. The first 3 playlists are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and the process, being a writer. Those 3 topics have about 50 videos total in them, each one about 10 minutes long, and it is each on a topic which is in the title and the thumbnail. Those thumbnails are just great big words talking about fear of writing, dialogue, character, genre, whatever topic it is. I tried to condense it down to a nice little lesson. It's not in any order, it's not in any system, it's not right or wrong, it's just things for you to try, to check out for yourself. So that's what I did. Now I have got, every week I go on live here, as I am right now. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I come on live to talk about a different topic. Today's topic, I'm talking about the idea of maybe turning these video lessons into a book form for you guys, and also to sort of close out Writing for Screens as a project for me. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you some of the things I've been trying to think about for myself. And that's where we are. So I'm going to say some hellos. Hello, Nathan and Tom, setting an alarm. Cool. Hi, Jens and Doreen and Donna. Good morning and good afternoon. Dialogue Craft, how you doing? Good to see all of you. Okay, here's the deal. Oh, look at this. Dialogue Craft, you have inspired me to start YouTube. Question. My question is, when you do writing live streams, how many information do you tell your audience about the work you are working on? Well, that's actually what we're doing right now. That's what I'm going to get into. The basic way that I worked on this YouTube stuff is I had the lessons. I had been working on the lessons for, frankly, years and years. I had been spending years and years collecting my thoughts on screenwriting, trying to figure out what form they should be in, thinking that they should be in a book, but not really wanting to write a book like everybody else writes. It just didn't feel useful to me. And then I came up with the idea that YouTube would reach a larger audience than a screenwriting book could. And so what I did was I tried to condense those lessons down to small, bite-sized chunks. But then when it came to live streams, I only did the live streams because, frankly, YouTube was saying, we need you to do live streams. Not you, me personally. They were just saying, we think everyone should be doing live streams, because they wanted people on more, and people seem to tune into live streams more for some reason. Anyway, so I just decided to do the live streams. The way I decided to do that was I thought the odds are no one's going to be watching. At the time that I started them, I only had like 36 subscribers. So I said, what can I do that I don't care if anyone's watching, that I can do without anyone watching, because it's just me doing my stuff. So that's why I thought of the idea of doing what I called the Screenwriting Step-by-Step Project, which was for an hour a day. I went on and I just talked about what I was writing. I wrote a project for the streams. Having finished that, I started doing these other live streams that were on other topics, most of which were not about what I'm working on. Now and then, what I'm working on now is a novel. So that's what I have a separate set of live streams which I do about that. And what I'm doing right now is to talk about the work I'm going to be doing now and in the future. But overall, I like sharing my own work. And what I'm actually looking forward to is getting into the new projects I am doing, but that means I have to stop doing this writing for screen stuff. Can't do too many things at once. I've discovered that about myself. So let's talk about this. The first thing that I want to talk about is like, why am I, like, I'm not a celebrity. It's not a big deal that I am doing one thing or another. But for the people who are watching, I wanted to talk about the idea of basically DIY, because that's really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about self-publishing. I'm talking about the basic concept of DIY projects, which I am a big advocate of. I really believe people should try to do what they can, DIY, do it yourself, handmade, homemade, get it out there as best you can. As a fan of that, I haven't really talked too much about how to do that. And I think I will share my process of learning how to do DIY publishing, because that's the next project I am working on. Is that I have decided the big plan is hopefully by this summer, in the next 6 months, I hope to finish the book version of these lessons that I've got and put it out as a book, self-publish it. And when that's done, I'll be shifting over to mainly working on my novel, trying to finish my novel ideally by the winter, at least get it really close to being done by the end of the year. And then possibly working on some other projects on various live streams and YouTube, which will not be writing for screens. It will just be my new version of some kind of channel. Hopefully I can pull most of you in with me because you seem to like me talking about my writing, but I just don't have that much to say anymore about writing for screens, about screenwriting. I really feel like I've said what I have to say as well as I can, and I find it creepy when people simply churn out stuff in order to have content for their fans. It's the point of this is to help you write, not to help me talk. It's all about you taking little notes and tidbits and thoughts and skills and trying them out for yourself. My ideal would be that you watch a little bit of my stuff and then turn it off and go write something. That is why I say it all the time. So I just don't have that much more to say about writing for screens. I've really talked about it enough to satisfy me. I don't want to just put in filler, or I don't want to talk about things I don't really know about. So that's the main thing that I am looking to do. So in order so the question is, why do a book at all, like out of this YouTube channel? The main reason is, first of all, people have asked me for it. They've said, videos are one thing. Book learning and video learning are different forms of learning. There's lots of different ways that people learn. And so the main thing I use is that I like books. I like having, like, instead of having to watch a video, to like open the book to the little section and read the recipe, check the plan, figure it out. And then that's to me a more useful form. So I think I want to put it into that form for y'all, but I also just don't want to do the same kind of how to write book, these giant chunks of text and essentially sort of long lectures on paper. I really don't think that is helpful. It can be useful, it can be interesting. For me, the thing that I found most helpful when I was trying to figure things out for myself is to take some article or story, and I basically just cut out all the stuff that isn't how to, that isn't a little statement of a thing to do. Strip it down. So that's what I've been trying to do in these videos, and that's what the book will be. It will be essentially the scripts of the videos, but stripped down even further to the simplest possible information on the page, because these videos have transitions and sort of chatty stuff and intros and ways to be entertaining. But for a book, I don't want to do that. I want it to just be as sharp and clear and useful as possible. Something that you can open up, read a page, and then close. So that's it. The challenge is also, because I need some personal reason to do something. I can't just do it because it's good for the market or even good for you guys. It has to be also good for me. It has to be something that I find interesting or challenging, something that will give me an artistic interest in what I am doing. And what I think is interesting is translating the format that I've created for these videos onto a page. So that's the personal reason I'm doing it. I also kind of wanted to experiment with self-publishing because the odds are very good that the novel that I'm writing, I will end up self-publishing. And I thought, how cool if I've already done it once before I have to do it with that. Especially because the novel is a harder sell. Novels are. There's more novels and the audience for them is smaller. The audience that I've got here is already tuned in. They already like what I'm doing. A fair number of you, I hope, will buy the Writing for Screens book. So it's a good way to get into self-publishing to learn how to do it. So that I can later transition to doing other projects that way, because I have a bunch of things I think I might want to publish. And also I think it's a nice way to conclude, to finish this Writing for Screens project. I'm not going to take down the channel. I'm just not going to be adding much new material. That's really the key. I want the channel to be, like the book, a reference work for anyone who's looking for how to screenwrite. So that's the first thought. I'm going to quickly check some comments because we've got a bunch of comments here. Okay, Donna says, it's an exciting topic. Looking forward to thoughts on a book. Having published over 20 books this way. Okay, Donna. Well then, Donna, I may be contacting you for advice because I have not done this before. I have self-produced movies, but I have not self-published a book. Hello, Pelicans. Hi, Michael. Hello, Jordan. Hello, Jean in Ward number 6. Exciting times ahead. Thank you. I think so too. Nishaj555. Don't leave us. I love this channel. I'm not leaving. I'm simply transferring the work to a new topic. But I will be around. I expect to be around as much as possible. I just don't want to keep doing this topic because I want to do stuff that I find interesting, including finishing my novel that I'm working on. And then I've got this one after that, which is really experimental and I think would be fun to share as I work on it. So that's the big picture plan. Hello, Andrea. And Jordan, Lachelle, how many books have you published in total? In total, 0. That's why I'm doing this, because I want to learn how to do it, because I think it's fun, and because this is, of all the ways to dip my toe into this new sphere, this is a good way, because I already have an audience. I got a bunch of subscribers, and I believe that would be a good way to try this thing. Because like I said, when I started the channel, for a year, I had 36 people watching, and I don't even think they were watching. So most self-published books, they sell however many the person can personally get relatives and friends to buy, 30 copies. So if I can get up there, I think that would be fun, a good way to start. Imogen says, I've been focusing on novel writing and short plays. Cool. That's all I want to do. I don't care if they gain traction. It's just the best thing in the world. Imogen, you and me both. You and I are on the exact same page, literally. That's how I feel. Right now, it's not that I don't want to make movies, but I'm old. I've been doing it for a long time. And for a long time, since I was, when I was a kid, I wanted to write books. And then I got sort of sidetracked and I kept saying, oh, well, I'm going to get this screenwriting thing working. And it consumed me. It was a full-time job for 25 years. And all that time I was like, oh, I think it would be cool to do this other creative thing that I've wanted to do since I was a kid. So to me, it's just a personal goal. Hopefully It'll also be artistically interesting to other people. I think it's going to be a good read, but we'll see. Thank you, Dialogue Craft. The Dialogue Craft says it's amazing. Imogen says, I prefer to try self-publishing first because of the politics behind traditional right now. Amazon is taking over. I'll definitely buy your work. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about that. Because, yeah, the question of self-publishing versus what is called traditional publishing is a biggie. It's a big question. Now, here's the deal. Why would I self-publish instead of using a real publisher? For me, the importance, in order of importance, the time it takes to publish that. I do know people who have published with traditional publishers. We're talking 1 to 2 years. That's after they read it and buy it and accept it. In other words, still, like that in itself could take forever, could take a year. Shopping it around to publishers, finding an agent, because publishers really don't look at things without an agent, the big publishers. Then finding the editors, then getting the decision, that could be 6 months minimum. Then another year or more until it fits into their slot of publishing. I feel old. I feel lucky that I don't need to get really a professional publisher. I feel like it's more important to me to work fast in this case than to get the particular validation and support of a traditional publisher. So that's for me. Control is also really fun for me. I just love being able to decide for myself, being able to say, this is the way I want to do it, and do it. Sometimes that's a mistake. Sometimes I make bad choices because it's like, I want to do it this way. And if I had done it the more standard way, it might have paid off better in certain ways. But I just love being able to do it. I love being able to say, sometimes pick a certain project and say, this one, I'm going to do exactly as I feel. Because to me, that is the ultimate in creative satisfaction. The money is slightly, the amount of money that you make per sale is slightly larger, or can be larger, when you self-publish, because you're not giving a cut to the publisher or distributor. But honestly, none of this is about money. I'm not going to make very much money on this at all, and certainly not the other things I'm going to publish. But and also self-education, learning how to do this thing that I've always kind of been curious about. And there's so many things in life that I'm like, oh, I wish I could learn about video games, playing them and making them, but I just don't think I have time. And this is one where I feel like I'm already on the roll towards this one, and I'm choosing this one. So Mark Burton, I see your comment and I will get to you, but I don't want to interrupt this particular topic until I've gotten through my notes on it. But then it's a very, very powerful question, Mark, and I want to get to it. Okay. The other thing about writing for publishing, self-publishing for writing for screens, how-to book, is it's a very limited genre. It's a small, how to write screenplay books are never going to be bestsellers. Okay. They're not that popular. They're not that interesting. There's just not that many people who want to do it. So I'm not going to be, like, Penguin Random House is not going to be like, ooh, we want to put this on the front page of our catalog. They're not going to do that. So there are one or two textbook publishers or publishers of special interest books who do handle this. And I have a feeling I could probably get one of them to publish it. But for me, what would be the advantage? Because I already have an audience, whereas they don't have an audience for me particularly. They churn out books all the time. I know other people who have published with them, and honestly, they have to do all their own marketing anyway. So I'm not sure. And once again, the idea of having to fit with whatever creative standards this company might have and to work on their timetable, just to me, it seems like it's not worth it. Honestly, when I finish the novel, when I finish Now Every Moment, I probably will show it to publishers, real publishers, because if they want it, it might be fun and cool to try it. I'll have to see how that goes. Let's talk about the downsides of any form of DIY self-production, making your own films, making your own games, making your own books. It is a huge amount of work. It is much, much more work than just the writing. And so therefore you have to be willing to commit to a lot of work. That's the biggest thing. I mean, it's not to be underestimated. As I go along, I think I'm going to start some live streams that are just talking about what that work is. There's also upfront costs. When you publish it yourself, you have to pay to a certain extent. You don't have to pay, you don't have to pay Amazon or the other distributors to put them out there. They simply take a slice of every sale. But there are upfront costs in terms of, in my case, I'll probably hire a professional copy editor just to make to give it a read for clarity and grammar. I'm not particularly good at those things. I'm not particularly consistent about those things. And I think it's worth doing. Also, a book designer, certainly a cover designer, probably should pay for that. So there are some upfront costs that I think I can handle, but that is something to consider when you do DIY anything. The other things that are about DIY that are really something to take on that you don't think about is how much ongoing responsibility it is. For instance, I made a little indie film, it was like 10 or more years ago now, 15 maybe, which got picked up by a very small distributor. They took on all those tasks of coordinating it, of selling it, of tracking sales, of promoting it. As a result, they took a percentage, a large percentage, of the income. But the thing is, every year you have to keep doing that. You have to keep, the contracts are changing, deals are changing, systems are changing, and you have to keep up with it. If you don't, the work becomes inaccessible. It can't stream, or it can't fit the formats of the Kindle or whatever it is. It's an ongoing effort to keep up to date with whatever it is you DIY. And the other thing is that when you stop, it dies. Honestly, that's mostly the case. I don't know how, like, if I decide to stop working on something like the movie that I made, the distributor is still putting it out there a little bit. It's still out there on Amazon, for instance. But it will go away. It will stop. It will stop being available. And that's kind of, a thought-provoking thing. But honestly, isn't that the way with everything? So being a DIY artist essentially means, to a certain extent, giving up on those things which people define as being a professional artist. You're not going to get any fame or importance or recognition. The odds are that you will be completely unknown and neglected. You also have to, deciding to do DIY is not just, I'm going to do this as my way into the big leagues. Mostly it isn't. Mostly you do DIY because you simply want to do the thing. You want to control the thing. You want to get the thing done ASAP. That's why you DIY. You don't DIY as a way to get into the big leagues. It's not a bad way. It's certainly worth trying. But if that's your end goal, it can be very, very frustrating. It's important to also like the process that you are doing. And that's really a personal decision. The place of art in your life. Is art supposed to make your rent? Is art supposed to pay for you? Is art supposed to make you impressive to your friends and family and people you meet when they say, who are you? Oh, I'm a writer. And they say, anything I would have ever heard of? And you have to say, no, I self-published it all. And they, in their minds, think, well, so you're not really a writer. And that's part of the world. That's how it goes. You have to be willing to say, yeah, that's who I am. I am a painter who sells at flea markets. Cool. If you you're not in museums, but you're a painter who does your work all the time and gets it out there all the time. And you never know who will pick it up and what they will do with it. Like I said, my big plan is get this Writing for Screens book done, hopefully by the end of this summer. Like really, really, I'm pushing. It's a lot of work. I am surprised at, even with the scripts all written, how much translating them into book form, editing them, cleaning them up, making them readable on the page, organizing them into a book form. It's hours and hours and hours of work per day. But kind of cool, kind of exciting, fun work, at least, most of the time. When that's done, like I said, move right into the finishing my novel, and ideally then using that same publishing entity, that same publishing process, to be prepared to publish the book. But at the same time, I have a novel I wrote back in 1989. I really like it. I'm really proud of it. It was submitted to publishers in early 90s, did not get published. At the time, the indie press, small press, didn't seem like that good of an option, and we didn't pursue it. I think now I'll just publish it myself. Or, we'll see if my novel does attract the interest of a small press and they want to publish both, cool. But if not, I can publish that. Also, some of my scripts may be collected into a volume, especially online. It's essentially free to do. I can publish it for a very low cost. I can say, here, you want to pay $1.99 and get 5 of my old screenplays? Cool. That's great. So that's all. And then, like I said, down the line, when I finish Now Every Moment, I have another novel, another historical novel that I don't quite know how to do. And I think it might be cool to do it as some form of online creative process that I share as I do. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to now stop for comments, and then I'll talk a little bit more about this, how I'm planning to do the screenwriting book. First, we're going to talk to Mark. Separate topic, pause the self-publishing. I'm very sorry to hear this, Mark. His dad passed away last week, 96 years old. Any advice on how I can use my distress? Man, that's a big one. That's a good question. It's not, I'm no expert. The first thing you want to do is sort out, are you using your art essentially as a form of therapy, or are you using your emotional situation as in your art? Those are actually two different goals. Both are legit, both can be done, but you should clarify for yourself what you're trying to do with this combination. The first thing I can say is whichever one it is, the first thing you want to do is just write stuff down. Write it down as soon as you can, as often as you can, as fluidly as you can. Don't look back. Don't think about it. Just when thoughts occur to you about this topic, about your dad, about death, about life, those things, write them down. Get into the habit of capturing them in words, because that's a hard process, especially when it's something personal. Write down any memories, write down feelings, write down things you're learning. Whatever that is, the first thing to do is don't wait until you have a plan. Just start writing things down while you figure out what you want to do with it. At very worst, it'll be a hell of a useful journal process. And that's really useful. Then the question is, if you are trying to deal with it as a therapy issue, in other words, to deal with your feelings about loss or your feelings about your father, things are complicated. They're never just this is the answer and now you're done. But I would suggest that you consider what it is for you that you're trying to accomplish by being creative with this feeling. If you're simply feeling like I have this thing and I need to put it into an artistic form, take yourself out of it. See about making it a character. You'll autobiographically feed it, but think, how does this become a story? How does this become something that says something? Maybe it doesn't say everything about you, but it says something that you feel strongly. That's a great use of personal things. The reason I say that is because If you are doing things therapeutically or as a memoir, you want to stick to the truth, the facts, the reality that you live through. If you are doing it where you're taking these feelings of loss and what they bring up in your mind, but you want to use them to feed your creative work because it feels like a good thing to do with them, which it is, then let yourself go from the facts and think about how the feelings can be used, like how they can feed, what they would do if they weren't tied to your reality. What do you want to do with them? Those are the first steps, I would say. That's a huge, huge thing. But what I would say is the main thing is do something right away. Keep doing it continually while you sort out what your goal is. If you want to write a memoir, cool. That's a good thing to do with that. If you want to write something fictional fed by this feeling, because it helps you to feel your feelings. Very often, us artistic people, we don't feel as well. We don't feel things fully sometimes directly, and we like to use our art to feel them, to get into them, to let them hit you as strong as they can. It's sort of a trick you do with your own mind, but it's legit. So those are my thoughts. Thumper says, I like experimental. I look forward to seeing what that is. Thank you. Me too. That is soon enough. It's a, like I said, historical novel about the American movie industry in the 20th century. There's a big topic. Okay. Dialogue Craft says, I've been planning to post videos of myself working through screenwriting books I've purchased, but I haven't yet studied, not to present myself an expert, but as a lifelong learner. That sounds fun. That sounds like a fun thing to do. Certainly, it's a good way to organize your thoughts and clarify them and experience them. So cool. That's a fun idea. Okay. Mark says, do you have a video advising how to create a claustrophobic atmosphere? All the President's Men, 3 Days of the Condor. Not specifically. I have not done anything specifically on that. I have done, let's see, this one. World building is probably the best way, I would say, to look at that. That's the closest I come to how to, oops, my mistake. How to when it comes to world building, the main thing I would say, the other thing I think it would be is look at this one, Take Art Apart, because I'm making notes. I'll put links to those videos down in the description about 10 minutes after I get done talking. But the answer is, when you're talking about a claustrophobic atmosphere, what you want to do is look at the things like you just mentioned, and think, how do they work? Partly there's the technicalities of things, like Margin Call, which is a fabulous movie, is very compressed and limited in terms of time and place. Partly that's a budgetary issue, and partly it is increasing the pressure and the claustrophobia of the characters. They're basically almost all in one building over the course of, I think, 1 or 2 nights tops. So that's one way. All the President's Men is a whole different thing. All the President's Men is tricky because I don't think that is really claustrophobic. Claustrophobic atmosphere for All the President's Men is mainly just the filmmaking. It's the directing and the cinematography and stuff like that. A lot of that is Gordon Willis and the lighting. So I wouldn't actually say that All the President's Men is that great. But even then, the way that it focuses on the 2 main characters in this maze, that's cool. Likewise, 3 Days of the Condor. The ways that All the President's Men and 3 Days of the Condor create their claustrophobic sense is by sticking with the character. By even like in 3 Days of the Condor, they'll cut away to the machinations of the world around this poor guy who's trying to survive this weird situation he's in. Great movie, by the way, one of my top favorite films of all time. 3 Days of the Condor. But what they do is they create his claustrophobia by showing, when you're with him, when you're with the main character, you don't know anything beyond what he can see and hear and feel. Like he's operating in the dark. He doesn't know what's going on. But what's interesting is that they don't stick to that. They allow us to feel a sense of the danger coming at him or the forces he's arrayed against by simply cutting away from his knowledge, by cutting to things he doesn't know are happening. And so that's an interesting thing, because the theory would be stick with him. And there are some great things which stick with you, with the one character, and therefore create the claustrophobia. Anyway, so the answer I would say is look at my world building and my take art apart videos for hints at how to study for yourself. Doreen is sending sympathy for Mark's lost. Glad to know that our community is giving some love and support to someone who suffered a loss. Michael says, my son said college is more watch than read. Yeah, I've heard that, actually. And why not? Why? Absolutely, why not? I don't have anything against one form of learning or the other. I just thought this is a cool, like, there's other things I could do too, like podcasts. It just seems to me that's too much work. It's not that it wouldn't be worth doing. If I was going to be a full-time devoting myself to being a writing teacher, I would do a podcast. Here's the problem. I don't really want to be a full-time writing teacher. I had something to say, and having said it, I really want to move on with my creative work. So that's what's going on here. Donna says, I'd love to help you. No problem. Yeah. Sales is the hardest part. Cool. Let's talk about that briefly. What is the work that I'm going to be doing to make this book? The first thing I have done is I took the scripts for each video, which I did in the Scrivener format. So these scripts here, let me show you what they look like. Don't have them. Oh, here you go. Okay. Do I have any? No. All right. What I did was each script was a separate project, a separate document, within it many subdocuments. Each little phrase, like section of talk, which you can see the cuts of in the videos, I wrote separately, so that I could say, this is just one thing to say, this is the next thing to say, put them together, they cover the topic. Now I have to take all of that text, which is all broken up into little 3-sentence bits, and I had to make a copy of them and paste them all into one big book-length manuscript document. But they were formatted. Well, let me show you the format for the script of this thing I'm currently talking about, because here we go. All right, so here we go. So this is the script for this thing I am talking about now. So you can see the topics I've done, but they are in these very like note cardy kind of format, which I find really helpful. Certainly when I'm talking spontaneously, but when you're reading a book, you don't want to just look at little note cards. You want it to have some sentences and flow. So what I've been doing is taking those things, many of which are good sentences, and formatting them into a document which is the text of the book. Let's see if I can show that to you. So, for instance, here, what I did was I took that topic, but if you see over on the side, so here, like this is the original script of Fear of Writing, put into one document. And what I did is I took some of that in there. What I've tried to do is turn these into regular text, text that I can still keep relatively simple, but so that, and I want to keep this notion of these things, these little headlines, these little, I don't know what to call them, but to have some form of thing which is like a little note card, a little index card, a little sticky that you can put up in front of yourself, and it's just like two phrases that can stick in your mind, like use what you have, or you don't have to write in order from beginning to end. So I want to format the book in such a way that it's not big blocks of text. It's just it's like a script, reads really simply and fast. So that's what my work is at the moment. The next thing I had to do is change the voice a little bit, because in these videos I make little transitions from sentence to sentence. I'll be like, so that's why you do this, and then you do this. But when you're reading it on the page, you want to stop. You don't want to have like, this leads to this, it's this. That's not helpful when you're trying to do how-to, when you're trying to make a recipe and cook from it. When you're doing a recipe, you want a list of steps. Boil the water, fry up the garlic, whatever it is, you want each one to be its own little line. So that's what I'm trying to do, is format this so that it reads more like something like that. So that's the next, and then the next thing will be figuring out the design, and then figuring out how to produce and distribute it. The thing I'm not going to do is what you should do, is do bookstore readings and stuff. I don't know how much I'm actually going to promote this. I have to decide. I'll decide later. There are like screenwriting conferences, and I could go to them, buy a stall and sell my book. And maybe I will, because maybe it'll be fun. I haven't decided yet. That would be next fall. It will depend on my life and how much I feel like I can put the time and effort and money and time away from home to do those things. But those are the things that are on the agenda. Have I listened to the Tarantino podcast? No, I have not. I actually stay away from screenwriting stuff now, because I'm not working on screenwriting personally. I'm not writing scripts, and I feel like I know a fair amount about that. So I'm really trying to focus on novel writing and self-publishing. So that's where I tend to put my interest. Also, a lot of podcasts I listen to are just history, politics, stuff like that. Okay. So let's see if there's any other topics. I'm going to say stop commenting, as much as I love these comments, because we are getting towards the end. Other questions. What is so special about Sean Baker? Every filmmaker crediting are praising him for like 3 years now. Well, have you watched his movies? They're really cool. They're great. I mean, I love them. They are very gritty, down-to-earth, realistic indie film, trying to capture the low-budget feeling of people, the way that they talk and live without the phony structure of film. They are actually brilliantly structured. However, his method, Florida Project, Red Rocket is hard to take, but it's great. Honora is fabulous, and I'm so thrilled that it won the awards. He's a great filmmaker. He's a great indie filmmaker who has devoted decades to this craft of indie filmmaking, of down-to-earth, realistic, but still entertaining and powerful film. So I'm a big Sean Baker fan. Watch his movies. In the 20th century, is there talk of the great American novel? No. No, there isn't. Nobody cares about the great American novel. Nobody cares about the great novel at all. Novels have become niche. I mean, there's a lot of them. People still find a great deal of entertainment and literary power in books. Novels still are selling. A lot of them are genre. The biggest sales come from genre, from romance and horror and mystery. So that classic literary great American novel, which was both popular entertainment and literary ambition, there isn't so much of it, but it's certainly around. But no, I grew up with that too, and that is over. I noticed that every film Kurosawa ever made, if you lay it down to one sentence logline, it sounds ridiculous, yet it works. Yes, much great work is uncapsulable, is does not do well with a poster or a log line, and good. That's like saying, Crime and Punishment. It's a story about a young student who commits a murder. Eh, if you're into murder stories, fine. Obviously, Crime and Punishment is about a great deal more than that. Um, have you considered starting your own production company? Not, I have considered, and I did for each of the productions that I did self finance and produce a couple of movies. One of which is Disfigured, which is out there for you. Please check it out. It's currently rentable on Amazon. Disfigured. Let me see if I have the title here. Yeah, there we go. It's not currently on iTunes. I have to talk to the distributor about that, but it is rentable. So yeah, you can see that I did. What I'm now doing is trying to basically start my own publishing company, which I'm going to do in order to publish my books. So the answer is yes. I will continue to talk about in further, more detailed how-to stuff what I'm doing in order to self-publish. But yes, I do want to have a company. Roberta says, what do you think about screenwriting teachers that tell students to toss out new ideas daily? Well, any creative person should try and do their work daily. Do you have to come up with a new idea every day? Nah, I don't. If you do, great. I would say that my main take on this is what I have said in this video: brainstorming and scrap piles. Because the idea of scrap piles, the idea that if you come up with something, if you do, you shouldn't have to. But if you do, if you think of an idea like, that would be fun. What if there was a horror movie set in a haunted amusement park? Not that that's particularly original, but you know what I'm saying. Or a rom-com between, two people who are never ever meet. I don't know. Whatever it is, if you get this idea, write it down. That's my main point. I do think that you should always be open. The more that you capture your ideas, the more that your ideas will become capturable. I know that sounds weird, but the more that you get in the habit of writing down your ideas and keeping them and thinking about them, the more that you'll notice the ideas. Your brain has the ideas all the time, but you don't notice them. You're screening them out. You're thinking, I can't be bothered. So becoming aware of your own creative work, great. Anybody who tells you have to do anything all the time is making a mistake. My answer would be, for some people, they pick one idea and they don't think of any new ones until that one is done. Other people, yeah, you just do it. You come up with stuff all the time. It's great if you can do it, and it's certainly worth trying to think about things, but this pressure to hit a daily goal is exaggerated. So that would be what I think about that. Thank you, Drive by Uppercut. All is pretty well. You looked me up. Which film was yours? Okay, the main films I did, Disfigured, was self-financed, self-produced, everything. Although I did have line producer and a supportive producer, but I made that movie. And then Like, Share, Follow, which I did not produce myself. Blumhouse, God bless them, produced it for me, but I did direct that. So those two are my two main directing and production experiences. I hope you win a lottery and start to produce your own megalopolis like Francis Ford Coppola. Me too. If I did win the lottery and had a few dozen million to produce something, you damn right I would. But I wouldn't write a new one. I've got a couple of old scripts that I would put into production tomorrow if I had 20, 30 million. Or actually less. Honestly, I could, Anora was 6 million. I would be fine with 6 million. Nishaj, talking to Mark, says, I'm sorry for your loss. I lost both my parents. You can write a script to honor your father when you're ready. Think of stories he told you about himself, things he did. And it doesn't have to be exactly like his life story, but a story he would be proud of. Yes. There are so many ways to handle it. What I would say is whatever is occurring to you, do it. Grab onto it. Try it. Just don't lock into anything for a while because honestly, losses, they're a time of change. They're a time of you don't know for sure what your life is going to be like afterwards. Don't lock into anything. Allow yourself to learn and grow as you experience. That's my advice. Um, okay. Unrelated, but I'm thinking of making a pitch deck presentation of a script of show idea I'm thinking of writing before writing the script or showing it to an executive. What do you think about that? I am not a big fan. Um, pitching used to be a way that professional writers would secure financing or support before they committed to a project. Many writers did this because they felt like it wasn't worth writing something if it wasn't going to get produced. Um, I don't think that way. I think if you think it's worth writing, write it. Make it as real and good as you can on the page and then show it to people because that's better. My feeling about pitches is always they are simply a recipe for disappointment. As far as I'm concerned, any pitch is going to trigger in everyone's mind. Every single listener is going to think about it differently. They're going to have different beliefs about it, ambitions. No matter how specific your pitch, people imagine. And then when you show them whatever you have done, which also has changed, all work, all creative work changes as you work on it. And if you've promised somebody a version of it, and then in the middle of it, you realize, oh, that character really should do something else, or that character shouldn't even exist, you're going to disappoint them, or you're going to even just like blow your contract. But even if you do exactly what you promised, they're still not going to see the thing they thought it was. I just think pitches are a terrible idea unless you happen to be somebody who has an agent and you can maybe get money up front. Honestly, that doesn't happen that much anymore. Usually a company will say, yeah, that's really cool. Show it to us when it's done because they can afford to. All right. Yes, Jordan says, depending on the person, it helps to write and just get some sort of comfort from that. Absolutely right. Michael Tanaka says, my favorite scene is in Julia. It's a movie about Lillian Hellman and her relationships with a friend named Julia during the war, Second World War. Lillian Hellman asks her lover, Dashiell Hammett, his feelings on wealth and fame because he was a famous detective writer. And he said, what does it have to do with writing? Thank you, Dashiell Hammett. Thank you, Michael. Okay, Kirby says, how do I get a job in this industry? Any job, PA, grip, anything, not just writing jobs. I apply to jobs, I don't get callbacks. Where do I start? What's the path forward? Interesting, because I've learned a little bit about this. I've never done production work, so I'm not really that experienced. First of all, you have to be in a city where they are making things. New York, LA, Chicago, Boston, Atlanta. There's a lot of them now, but it's better if you're in a very small city or a city that doesn't have much of a production industry. It's just harder. But the answer would be get some experience and contacts, and the best way to do that is to do indie films and student films. Work with a bunch of people who are, they're frankly desperate for help. Try and learn about stuff by doing that, because also then you meet all those people. And if you have a good relationship, a good experience with them, the next time they're doing something, they'll say, hey, you say, next time you're doing a show, let me know. So you have to do some hustling and some work that's probably going to be terrible experience, probably ill paid or unpaid. Do some of that. Get your feet wet. There will always be student films at film schools, film programs in whatever city you are in. And it's worth seeing if they want a PA, if they're looking for people to help out with the production. They usually are. Also commercials, the various industrial videos. There's companies that do non-Hollywood, non-entertainment stuff, music videos. Look into companies that do those and offer to work for them. because what you're drilling to do is just get some credit and also contacts, because the way that all production work goes is that people go to people they've worked with before, because the work is very hard, it's very demanding, it can be very unpleasant, and they want to know that they can trust the person that they are working with and that they have fun with the person they are working with, because it's long days. So you have to become that person. You have to become a person who is A, reliable, capable, and B, fun to work with. As I've said, Tom Hanks not famously, but Tom Hanks wrote a book about the movie industry. And the one sentence that killed me in it was, he said, the way that you do well in the business is you are somebody who solves more problems than you create. In other words, if somebody says, hey, run down and get me the sodas, and you run down and get them the sodas, you've solved their problem. That's great. You don't have to come up with any, just do what they ask. If you are like, they say, go run down and get the sodas, and you're like, where do I get the sodas? How do I carry the sodas? Blah, 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 blah. Then they hate you because your job is to make their life easier. So that's how you work in production. Okay. I'm skimming some stuff. I think it's really cool that you guys are talking to each other, and I love that. But I am trying to get out of here in the next 4 minutes or so. Okay, next institute. I love the way you managed to share your creative process. Thank you. I clicked just to see how you're doing. Fine, it seems. Yeah, pretty good. Yes, I feel like that's my thing. That's what I have to offer, is I'm trying to really share my creative process, in not because I think I'm important or interesting, but because I think watching someone do it can help you figure out how you want to do it. That's all I got to show. That's all I got to offer. Skepular says, what common mistakes do new writers make? Well, I would say among the biggest common mistakes new writers make is, one, thinking about writing as information. In other words, I have to pass this information to the audience, as opposed to dramatic action. I did a video on that topic, so you can get more thoughts on that. I will put a link in the description here in about 10 minutes after I stopped recording. But dramatic action is really, really key. Understanding that the point of dramatic writing is to make things happen for the audience. The other thing I think that is a big problem for new writers is not understanding how much the audience wants to play. They want to work. They don't want you to give them everything. They want to give you pieces. They want you to give them pieces that they can put together, so they're getting things as the story is happening. If you are giving them everything they need to know at all times, you are boring the hell out of them. They don't want to be passive. They want to work. The other big thing I would say is thinking in scenes, learning to think in scenes, to say, I have this feeling, I have this idea, I have this genre, whatever it is. How am I going to break that into actions, into scenes? That scripts are made out of scenes. So I would urge you to look at that video. Those are the common two common mistakes in terms of the script itself. In terms of the writing process, for me, I think the biggest mistake is not recognizing that the process is writing and rewriting and writing and rewriting. It's not outline, first draft, clean it up, you're done. That's not how writing works. Writing is a spiral of working and reworking, and sometimes you're outlining, and sometimes you're analyzing, and sometimes you're rough drafting, and sometimes you're editing, and you just do that over and over. It's not a straight line. It's not like you get one part of the process done and then you move to the next part. I did a live stream called The Spiral Process. Urge you to take a look at that. Okay. Hi, Matthew. No more comments. Hi, Lake Filter. Good to see you. Yeah. Thank you. Skepular, how has the industry changed since you started? I don't have time to answer that now. I'm supposed to be ending now. I will make that the topic of another live stream. How's that? Industry. I'm going to make that, made a note to do that, because that's a long conversation. I mean, I started in the 1980s. And so a lot has changed since the 1980s. So I will talk about that another time. Yes, please drop your questions in the comments section. Tarantino just rants about movies, not really about screenwriting. Cool. And I'm sure he does. I read his book. I liked a lot of his rants. I didn't agree with half of them, but the other ones I thought were very insightful. Yeah, like I said, I'm focusing on novels right now, so I'm not really doing that much movie stuff. Ideas, damn you all. Fun name. Says, ideas aren't the hard part. It's getting a finished product. Yes, I agree. As far as I'm concerned, I've said this before, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad idea. As far as I'm concerned, the question is, what are you going to do with your idea? How are you going to make it work? How are you going to make it into whatever it is you think is a good project? As Damuel has said, the distance between not having an idea and having an idea is teeny, but the distance between having an idea and having a finished work of art out of it is very, very long. And so, yes, I would say don't focus on ideas, focus on the writing process and the work itself. Okay, thank you. Making connections like me. I'm literally a connection. I am literally a connection, except I cannot help you get work. Just telling you right now, I can't do that. But I am a connection. My connection is I am here to give you advice when I can. All right, everybody, it is lovely. This is great. We will talk more about these things. But in the meantime, as I have said, go write something.